Imagine for a moment that your mind is a garden. Just picture it. A lot of soil, it's rich, it's fertile, and it's just waiting.
Right.
Now, here's the thing about this garden, and this is the brutal reality we have to sort of confront right at the start.
Okay.
This garden is completely indifferent. It doesn't care about you at all.
It has no preference.
None. If you plant corn, you get corn.
Yep.
If you plant nightshade, you get poison. And it will grow that poison with the exact same enthusiasm as the corn.
And here's the kicker, as you said. If you plant nothing.
Yeah, if you just walk away,
Yeah.
you're too busy, you're too tired, whatever. It doesn't say empty.
No, that's the illusion of neutrality.
Weeds will grow. Thorns will grow. The soil will produce something, whether you intend for it to or not.
That is the central metaphor from James Allen's work, As a Man Thinketh. And it just perfectly sets the stage for everything we're going to talk about today.
It really does.
It just destroys that idea of neutrality. You're either cultivating or you're neglecting. But in both cases, you are absolutely creating a harvest.
If this episode helps you, please hit like and subscribe for the next one.
So welcome back to the classic Mosaic Truth series. This is our second session together.
Right. And it feels like we're really building something foundational. In our first conversation, we looked at thought and character.
The internal work.
Exactly. We established that you are, quite literally, what you think. Your character is just the sum total of all your thoughts.
And now we're taking that concept and moving it outwards.
We are. We're moving from the internal world of who you are to the external world of what you have. The topic today is thought and circumstances.
And this, I think, is where the rubber really meets the road for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. Because, a lot of people can accept that their thoughts shape their mood. That's pretty intuitive.
Sure. You think sad thoughts, you feel sad. That's not a huge leap.
But it is a much, much harder pill to swallow to be told that your thoughts shape your bank account.
Or your career. Or the quality of your relationships.
Exactly. It feels like a step too far for many.
It does, but it's the necessary one. And the mission for this session is very specific. We want to help dismantle that belief that we're just victims of luck or fate or chance.
And replace it with what?
Replace it with a deep, practical understanding of cause and effect. We want to see how the invisible stuff in our heads becomes the solid, tangible stuff in our lives.
Okay, let's go back to that garden metaphor then, because Alan really spent a lot of time there. It seems so simple, but the more you look at it, well, the scarier it gets.
It's scary because it implies total responsibility, doesn't it?
It really does.
Alan writes that a gardener cultivates his plot, keeping it free from weeds and growing the flowers and fruits which he requires. That's the active state. That's, high agency.
That's the ideal we're all striving for.
It's the goal. But then he describes the other side, the neglected garden. He says, if no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein and will continue to produce their kind.
I love that phrase, will fall therein. It's so passive. It suggests that the world is just full of these weed seeds just floating around on the wind.
It is. Think about the modern information environment we live in. We are swimming in it.
Tell me about it.
Negativity, fear, outrage, distraction, gossip, cynicism. These are all weed seeds. They're airborne. You don't have to go looking for them.
No, they find you.
They find you. If you just leave the gate of your mind open and do nothing, those seeds are going to land. And because the mind is such fertile soil, what we'd call neuroplasticity in modern terms, those seeds will take root.
Nature abhors a vacuum.
Precisely. You cannot have an empty mind. It's impossible. If you're not actively, consciously planting a purpose or a philosophy or a clear goal, you're not staying neutral.
You're being planted by the wind.
That's it. You're letting the algorithm or the news cycle or your neighbor's complaints do the planting for you.
And then we sit back and wonder why we feel so anxious or so stuck. We look at the harvest, the anxiety, the lack of focus, and we say, where on earth did this come from?
But we grew it. By neglect, we grew it by simply failing to stand guard at the gate of the garden.
This makes me think of Marcus Aurelius. There's a strong connection here, isn't there?
Yep.
He had that line about the color of the soul.
Oh, yes. A beautiful and terrifying image. In his meditations, he writes, the soul is dyed by the color of its thoughts.
Dyed. Like fabric.
Exactly. Think of a piece of clean white cloth. You dip it into a vat of purple dye, maybe just once. It stains a little. You might be able to wash most of it out.
Okay.
But what if you soak it there? Day after day, you just leave it steeping in that dye. Eventually, it becomes purple. You can't wash it out anymore. The color has become part of the fabric itself.
So if you were soaking your mind day in and day out in thoughts of, I'm a victim, or life is just unfair or nobody gets me.
Then your soul, your very personality, your perception of reality gets dyed that color. You start to see the world only through that lens.
So you get a sour life, not because the world is inherently sour,
but because you've lost the capacity to taste anything else. Your perception has been fundamentally altered by the dye you chose to soak it in.
and this connects directly to modern behavioral psychology. I mean, we talk about synaptic pruning, habit formation. The neurons that fire together wire together.
Exactly. It's the same principle. If you constantly run the neural pathway of complaining, your brain myelinates that pathway. It insulates it, makes it faster, more efficient.
You're literally building a superhighway for negativity in your brain.
You are. That is the weeds taking over the garden in biological terms. It becomes the path of least resistance. It actually takes less physical energy for your brain to be negative than to be positive because that's the infrastructure you've spent years building.
So when Alan wrote this over 100 years ago, he wasn't just being poetic. He was describing a biological reality he couldn't possibly have had the science for.
He was describing the mechanism of how we become who we are. He was describing the hardware of the human mind.
Okay, so that is the setup. The mind is the garden. But I really want to bridge this gap to the external world. How does a thought in my head actually become a circumstance in my life?
A crucial question.
Because, I can think about $1 million all day long, but that doesn't mean a bag of cash is going to drop on my lawn.
No, and that's a key distinction. We are not talking about magic. This is not about just wishing for things.
Yeah.
Alan lays out a very practical, almost mechanical chain of cause and effect.
Let's walk through that chain.
Okay, so it always starts with the seed. The seed is the thought. Every single act, he says, springs from the hidden seed of thought.
You can't do something without thinking it first, even for a millisecond.
Right. Even impulsive acts come from a pattern of thought you've allowed to just sit there unattended in the garden. So thought is the seed.
Okay, what's next?
The thought then blossoms into an act. But, and this is important, one act doesn't make a life. If you go to the gym once, you're not fit. It's just an event, a blip.
But if you repeat that act,
then it crystallizes.
Into a habit.
Right. Thoughts crystallize into habits. And habits are solid. They're the structural beams of your day. They're the things you do without even thinking.
And then finally,
habits solidify into circumstances.
So that's the full chain. Thoughts lead to acts. Repeated acts become habits. And habits solidify into your circumstances.
That's the payoff. So if you are broke, or if you're in a toxic relationship, or if you're unhealthy, Alan would argue that's the fruit. That's the circumstance.
And you can trace it back.
You can trace it all the way back. You find the habit that created it. You trace the habit back to the repeated acts. And you trace those acts back to the original thought seed that you allowed to take root in your garden.
This brings us to what might be the single most confronting line in the entire book. I mean, I highlighted this one 3 times. Alan writes, "Men do not attract what they want, but what they are."
It is a devastating sentence, is that?
It just completely kills the whole idea of, I want this, so I'll get it. It's not about wanting.
Not at all. We all want good things. I mean, who doesn't? We all want to be wealthy, healthy, happy, loved. Whims and wishes are cheap. Everyone has them.
So what's the difference?
Alan distinguishes between a whim and an inmost thought. An inmost thought is your identity. It is what you believe deep down to be true about yourself.
Can you give me an example of that difference? Because I think this is where people really get stuck. They say, oh, I really want to change, but then nothing happens.
Sure. Let's look at the work of James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. He talks about identity-based habits. It's the same concept.
Okay.
Let's say 2 people are trying to quit smoking. You offer a cigarette to the first person. They say, no thanks, I'm trying to quit.
Seems reasonable enough.
It sounds reasonable, but look at the language. I am trying to quit.
Yeah.
Who are they? They still identify as a smoker who is attempting a very difficult task. They're essentially fighting against their own identity.
Right. It's a struggle.
Now, you offer that same cigarette to the second person. They say, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. Ah, that's a huge difference.
It's a massive shift.
Yeah.
The second person has changed their inmost thought. They've changed who they are. So they're not attracting a struggle. They're attracting the reality of a non-smoker because that is who they have decided to be.
So Alan is saying you can't have the circumstance of, say, physical health if your inmost thought is, I'm a lazy person who loves junk food.
You attract what you are. The two are in conflict. The identity will always win.
So if I truly want to change my circumstances, I can't just change what I want. That's not enough. I have to change who I fundamentally believe I am.
Precisely. And that leads us directly to the most difficult part of this entire philosophy, the responsibility line.
Yeah. This is where people usually get defensive. And I get it. Because if we say circumstances come from thoughts, it can sound like we're saying that everything bad that happens to you is your fault.
It sounds like blaming the victim. That's the common objection.
And we have to be really nuanced here. We do. Alan is not saying you control the weather. He's not saying you control the global economy or the traffic on your commute or the fact that a virus exists.
Right. He's not saying you're responsible for the drunk driver who hits your car.
No. But he is aligning perfectly with the Stoics here, specifically Epictetus. Epictetus taught the dichotomy of control. There are things up to us, and there are things not up to us.
Okay, let's break that down for a second.
What's up to us? Our opinions, our aims, our desires, our aversions.
Yeah.
Basically, all the software running in our own heads.
And what's not up to us?
Our bodies, in a genetic sense.
Right.
Our property. Our reputation, which is what other people think of us,
Yeah.
and what other people do. All external.
So where does the responsibility actually kick in?
It kicks in with this line from Alan. We cannot directly choose our circumstances, but we can choose our thoughts, which indirectly, but surely, shape our circumstances.
Indirectly, but surely. I like that.
Think of a captain on a sailboat. The captain cannot choose the wind. The wind is the circumstance. It's external. It could be a storm. It could be a gentle breeze. It could be nothing.
There's no control over that.
None. But the captain chooses the set of the sail. And by choosing how to set the sail, which is analogous to choosing your thoughts, he uses whatever wind there is to get where he wants to go.
So the person who blames the wind just gets blown around and ends up on the rocks.
While the person who sets the sail harnesses the power of the wind, even if it's a harsh wind, that is responsibility.
And that leads to the quote that I think defines this entire session. Circumstance does not make the man, it reveals him to himself.
It reveals him to himself. That changes everything, doesn't it? It means that a crisis is not a punishment from the universe. A crisis is a stress test.
It's like squeezing a sponge.
Exactly. I love that analogy. If you squeeze a sponge, whatever is inside has to come out. If you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. You never, ever get apple juice from an orange, no matter how hard you squeeze it.
So if life squeezes me, I lose my job, I go through a breakup, I hit a financial wall, and what comes pouring out of me is bitterness, anger, dishonesty.
Then that bitterness was already in there. The circumstance didn't create it. It just squeezed it out into the open. It revealed that your inmost thoughts were not as resilient or noble as you might have hoped.
That is a harsh truth, but it's also incredibly empowering.
How so?
Because it means if I change what's inside the sponge, the next time I get squeezed, something different will come out.
And that is the entire path to freedom. But to get there, we have to talk about the trap that keeps most people stuck.
The blame game.
The blame game. Or, in more psychological terms, the external locus of control.
This is when we truly believe that the factors controlling our lives are outside of us. The system is rigged. My boss just hates me. I just have bad luck.
Alan calls this whining and reviling. He says we are continually revolting against an effect without, while all the time nourishing and preserving its cause in the heart.
That's such a brilliant paradox. We fight the effect, we hate being broke, but we nourish the cause, which might be our own laziness or fear or lack of financial discipline.
Alan gives some really sharp, almost brutal examples of this. He talks about an employer who's struggling to make a profit. So to save money, this employer starts cutting wages, paying below the standard rate. He's cheating his workers.
Right.
And when his business eventually goes bankrupt, he blames the economy. He blames the market conditions.
But Alan says the cause was his own dishonesty.
Exactly. His thought seed was, I can cheat my way to success. That thought crystallized into the act of cutting wages. That habit of dishonesty solidified into the circumstance of a ruined reputation and a failed business, but the man can't see it. He sees himself as a victim of the economy.
He also gives that example of the rich man with the disease.
Yes, the man who is wealthy but suffering from some painful physical condition brought on by gluttony. And he pays doctors huge sums of money for cures. He wants the pain to stop.
But he refuses to give up the rich foods and the gluttonous lifestyle.
He wants the circumstance of health, but he's completely unwilling to change the identity of being a glutton. He's fighting the result while actively feeding the source.
This sounds an awful lot like the psychological concept of learned helplessness.
It is the absolute definition of it. Martin Seligman's research showed that when an animal or a person feels that no matter what they do, the outcome will be the same, they eventually just stop trying.
They learn to be helpless.
Yes. And when you constantly blame external factors, you are teaching yourself helplessness. You are telling your brain over and over, I have no power here. And once your brain truly believes that, it stops looking for solutions.
So how do we break out of that? How do we reset? Because knowing this intellectually is one thing, but actually doing it on a day-to-day basis is another thing entirely.
The method is an internal shift. It has to be. You have to stop attacking the circumstance directly. You have to go upstream to the cause.
Okay, let's break this down into actionable steps. Step 1.
First is recognition. You have to stop complaining. Period. Full stop. Alan says a man only begins to be a man when he ceases to whine and revile.
So just accept it.
Yes. You have to look at your current harvest, your life as it is right now, and say, okay, I planted this. Even if it was unconscious, you have to accept ownership of the garden plot.
That stops the bleeding. Okay, what's next?
Next, you weed the garden. This is an active process. You have to identify the specific thought seeds that are causing the issue. Is it fear of failure? Is it a deep belief that you're unworthy of success? Is it a habit of procrastination rooted in perfectionism? You have to pull them up by the roots.
Then finally,
You plant. You consciously cultivate specific positive thoughts. But, and this is the critical part, you have to reinforce them with action. Alan is very clear that thought allied to purpose becomes creative force.
so you can't just sit on the couch and think I am successful.
No, that's just wishful thinking. You have to bridge the gap between thought and action.
In modern psychology, this reminds me of implementation intention, right?
Yes, exactly. It's a concept from the psychologist Peter Gollwitzer. A simple but incredibly powerful if-then plan. It builds that bridge.
How does that work in practice?
Well, instead of a vague goal like, I want to be calmer, you make a specific plan. If I feel my chest tighten with anger during a meeting, then I will take 3 deep breaths before I speak.
You're preloading the decision.
You're planting a seed of control so that when the circumstance hits, the new desired response is already locked and loaded. It becomes almost automatic.
That makes it so much more actionable. It's not just philosophy, it's a tactic.
It has to be.
I want to make this really concrete for everyone listening. Let's look at 3 specific areas of life where we can apply this thought and circumstance model. Let's start with work.
Work is a huge one. The scenario is so common. You feel stuck. You feel underpaid, unappreciated. The external circumstances, this is a dead-end job.
So the normal victim-minded reaction would be to slack off, to do the bare minimum. They don't pay me enough to actually care.
Right. And that's the attitude of lack. But what kind of seed is that? That's a seed of laziness and resentment. And if you plant laziness and resentment day after day, what kind of harvest do you get?
You become a lazy and resentful person.
You do. Your character degrades. You become less skilled, less sharp, less valuable. You are literally proving to the marketplace that you deserve to be exactly where you are.
Ouch. Okay, so what is the shift?
The shift is from an attitude of lack to an attitude of value. Regardless of the paycheck, you decide, I am a person of excellence. You focus on skill acquisition. You do the job better than it needs to be done, not for your boss, but for your own character.
And the result of that?
You outgrow the environment. Alan has this beautiful image of a young man in an unhealthy workshop. He says that as this young man mentally outgrows the workshop, it can no longer hold him. It literally falls away like an old garment. If you become excellent, new opportunities will find you. Or you'll have the confidence to leave and start your own thing.
But you can't get to the next level until you've outgrown the current one internally first.
You have to earn it in your character before you see it in your circumstance.
Okay, let's tackle example 2. Relationships. This one is tricky because it involves other people, and we can't control them.
It is tricky, and the scenario here is usually conflict, resentment, or feeling constantly misunderstood. My partner never listens to me. My friend is so selfish.
The trap is trying to change them.
Exactly, trying to control the external. The Stoic angle here is absolutely vital. You cannot control how others treat you, but you can always control how you perceive it. Epictetus has a wonderful little phrase for this. It seems so to him.
It seemed so to him. What does that mean in practice?
It means realizing that people act based on their own internal logic, their own mental garden. When someone is rude to you, it's not about you. It's a weed from their garden spilling over.
So the action for us is what?
The action is to set firm boundaries, but without anger. It's removing that thought seed of victimization. Instead of thinking they are hurting me, you shift to they are behaving poorly and I will choose how much of that I engage with.
You stop watering their weeds with your attention.
That's a perfect way to put it, yes.
Okay, example 3, habits. breaking a bad one or building a good one?
We touched on this with the smoking example. The scenario is, I want to get in shape or I want to stop endlessly scrolling on my phone.
The shift here.
It has to be an identity change. You stop fighting the old habit and you start building the new person. You don't say, I can't eat that cookie. You say, I'm the type of person who fuels my body for performance.
And the action.
Consistency over intensity. Small, daily choices that prove the new identity to yourself. Every single time you choose the apple over the cookie, you are casting a vote for that new identity. You're putting one more healthy seed in the ground.
This brings us to a practical exercise. We really want everyone listening to actually do this, not just hear it. We're calling it the circumstance reset.
Yes. We want this to be more than just passive listening. It's time to do the work.
Okay, I'm ready. Walk us through the steps.
All right, we're going to do 6 steps. You can do this mentally right now as you're listening, or hit pause and grab a piece of paper.
Step 1.
Identify one specific circumstance you want to change and be really precise. Not, my life is a mess, but my $2,500 of credit card debt, or my strained relationship with my brother, or the chaotic mess of my apartment. Specificity is power.
Got it. Step 2.
Now, identify the repeated thought you harbor about it. What is that hidden seed? Is it, I'll never get out of this hole? Is it, he's just impossible to talk to? Is it, I'm just a messy person by nature? Be brutally honest with yourself. Find the weed.
Step 3.
Identify the repeated behavior that follows that thought. What's the habit? If you think, I'll never get out of debt, do you then go and buy something to comfort yourself? If you think I'm messy, do you just leave your clothes on the floor because, hey, what does it matter?
So now we have the chain.
Yeah.
The circumstance, the thought, and the habit. Step 4.
Replace the thought with a cleaner direction statement. Create a new seed to plant. So instead of, I'm messy, the new seed is, I am someone who respects my living space. Instead of, I'm broke, the new seed is, I am in the process of building financial freedom.
Step 5.
Choose one small, concrete action to take today. Just one. Not tomorrow, today. Pick up the clothes from the floor. Pay $10 extra on the credit card. Send one neutral, polite text message. Plant that first seed.
And finally, step 6.
Remove one contradiction. This is the act of weeding. For today, just stop the complaining loop about that topic. Stop avoiding it. Or stop using the excuse of, I'm waiting to feel ready. Just cut one counterproductive behavior today.
That is so powerful. It moves it from this big, abstract idea into something you can actually put on your calendar.
That is the only place where change ever happens. In the calendar, in the real world.
Now, even when people have this method, they can still mess it up. I know I have. There are some really common pitfalls.
There are. Let's run through 5 specific mistakes people make when they try to apply this philosophy.
Okay, mistake number 1.
Expecting an instant harvest.
Oh, this is the big one, isn't it? I thought positive thoughts all morning. Why am I still poor?
Exactly. Seeds take time to germinate. In nature, there is always a delay between planting and reaping. You have to be okay with that lag time. You have to persist in watering the new thought, even when the old circumstance is still visible all around you.
Patience. Okay, mistake 2.
Changing the outside before the inside. This is buying a new, expensive planner without changing your internal discipline. Or it's moving to a new city to escape your problems, but you pack your own personality right in the suitcase with you.
The geographical cure. It never, ever works.
Never. You have to change the mind, and then the environment will follow, not the other way around.
Mistake 3.
Identifying with the failure.
What does that look like?
It's when you say, I am a failure, instead of, I failed at this one task. You have to separate yourself from the circumstance. You are the gardener. You are not the weed.
That's a great distinction. Mistake 4.
Neglecting the small thoughts. People tend to watch the big thoughts, the major life decisions, but they let the little daily annoyances and petty judgments run wild in their mind.
Like mental static.
Yes, and Alan says, a small leak sinks a great ship. You have to be watchful of that casual, everyday negativity.
And mistake number 5.
Underestimating the environment.
But wait a minute. Didn't we just say we have to change the inside first?
We do. We shape it, yes. But while you are weak, while your new seeds are just tiny little sprouts, you have to protect them. You have to consciously guard the gates of your mind.
So if you're trying to quit drinking, don't hang out in a bar.
Exactly. If you're trying to be more optimistic, maybe don't doom scroll on social media for 3 hours a day. Curate your inputs until your new internal character is strong enough to withstand the storm.
That is just deeply practical wisdom.
Aww.
Okay, we've covered a massive amount of ground here. Let's try and recap the key points of this whole session.
Let's distill it down.
First,
Circumstances are the mirror of the mind. They don't create us, they simply reveal us to ourselves.
Second,
We cannot choose our consequences directly. We can't just snap our fingers and change the harvest, but we can always choose the thoughts that cause them.
third,
The mind is a garden, and neglect is just as powerful a creator as intention. If you don't plant flowers, weeds will absolutely plant themselves. The great maxim. We do not attract what we want, we attract what we are. Your identity drives your reality.
Fifth,
Blaming external events traps us in victimhood. It is the very definition of learned helplessness.
sixth,
True. Lasting change requires altering the internal thought pattern first. You have to go upstream to the seed.
and seventh.
Small, consistent actions are what prove the new identity to yourself and, over time, reshape your physical reality.
This has been it's been a profound exploration.
It really has. These ideas are simple, but they're not easy.
No, not at all. Before we go, I want to leave everyone with something to think about for next time. We've talked about how thoughts shape our money, our jobs, our relationships. But there's one piece of circumstance that is closer to us than any of that: your own body.
That is exactly where we're going in episode 3, Thought and the Body.
It is a fascinating and often overlooked area. We're going to look at how thought patterns can impact physical health, aging, and our daily energy levels. Alan has a great line for it. He says, "A sour face does not come by chance."
I love that. So we're going to talk about how to stop giving yourself wrinkles with your own thoughts.
Effectively, yes, among other things.
Thanks for being here. If you want the full series, check the playlist and please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.